Hello, I'm Christopher Thompson, and welcome to another edition of Chris Speaks. I just realized yesterday that um, us as Americans are very uninformed about what's going on around the world, especially if it's something our government doesn't want us to know about. One of our allies, such as India. Okay, well, I was watching this thing on Al Jazeera America, which obviously it's for American TV, but it's Arab news program, and I learned something that I didn't hear anything of this news. Okay, so this is about this guy in India who was using reggae music to protest the an assault on their freedom of speech. And then I realized, I didn't even know they had a problem with their government with freedom of speech. Well, apparently, the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, who is part of the Bharatiya Janata Party, I don't know if I said that right, which is a right-wing Hindu nationalist party, is basically trying to crack down on their freedom of speech and other civil rights. And obviously it's a Hindu party, so this is another example of what happens when people try to run things under a theocracy, because they're not a theocracy, but I bet you if this party had their way, they would. But that's the main thing is that our news is not informing us about stuff around the world. And something like this well, I guess we're not allowed to know that one of our so-called allies has been overtaken by a political party that wants to get rid of freedom and freedom of speech. And there's people in this country that want to do the same thing. Well, they want themselves to have free speech and no one else to. Okay, so that's the first part, and I feel like we're being failed by our media because it's the corporate media. They tell us what the government says they can tell us, and they, well, I mean, at least they still have a little bit of autonomy where they can kind of criticize the government a little bit, but they won't do it too much. Okay, well, anyways, now getting into what I was watching. So I was on Al Jazeera, watching Al Jazeera America on my streaming device, and this guy, he really liked reggae, and he really likes a lot of reggae is protest music, and it's very intellectual, a lot of it, and he got the idea from the actual reggae guys, basically DJs in Jamaica that would go around with these custom-built sound systems and play the reggae music at protests and stuff like that. And this guy did the same thing. He built his own sound system, and he was trying to fight against the government that's cracking down on free speech. And first free speech goes, and then the next thing you know, all your freedoms are gone. But this guy was doing a lot, and it was like, I found it interesting because I didn't know if there were people in India that liked reggae. Who knows, it might end up with people getting influenced and starting Indian reggae bands. That'd be different. Especially if they did it like in Hindi, that'd be a trip. But anyways, like, that's what I'm saying. So, our ally India is inching towards being a theocracy or a dictatorship. And this guy's been president since like 2003 or something, and it's probably one of the things where there's no term limits. I don't know that for sure, and where they're just going to keep electing the guy and keep electing the guy. But it just irritates me that we should know this stuff, and there's not a mention of it on the corporate media. Not one bit. The sad thing is there isn't anything about it on the independent media either, which is kind of irritating because I usually expect them. The whole thing is yes, there is, what was I saying? We are informed on a little bit of stuff, but we are very ignorant as people on world events, and it's very important to know world events. Maybe this one doesn't specifically reflect what we're doing, but we need to be aware of what our country is doing around the world, what influence we're having on people, good or bad. I mean, people are ignorant of it, and some people are just oblivious. They don't want to know, but I think for us that do want to know, I think we have a right to know things. And instead of letting us know about India's government oppressing the Indian people, we learn about Trump's travels around Europe making an ass out of himself. Sometimes we need to stop following the three-ring circus and start following the things that mean something, the issues. It's just, and I'm sorry, independent media, you guys aren't doing it either. Sure, the independent media is much better than the mainstream, if it's the right independent media, not stuff like Breitbart. Breitbart's a Nazi propaganda website. But anyways, that was my point, is that we've been let down by the corporate media and even the independent media, that we expect them to inform us about things going on around the world, and had to go to something like Al Jazeera or BBC in order to get information, or RT, Russian television sometimes. But the thing with Russian television is you can't trust them on anything that has to do with Russia, because they're the state-owned news corporation, so they're not going to be really say anything critical about the government. Well, one lady did, and then she stepped down and left the company, the station. But anyways, that's all I have to say about this subject. Till next time, I'll see you.